It would be the worst of the CBC for January 11th, 2020, the show where I watch the CBC, so you don't have to. But this is a lot more important, I guess. And let me tell you, I did watch the CBC today. I did watch the National. But we have to talk about the curfews being put in Quebec and potentially mulled over in Ontario, because this is a gross civil rights violation, and no doctor actually backs this. Folks, I saw the modeling. If you see the modeling, you're going to fall into your chair. Okay, two things here that we have to understand about scientific modeling. One, the modeling on coronavirus has been consistently wrong for the last year. Two, modeling only really affects what you should have done last month, not what you do this month. So modeling isn't really affected by what you do right now. That's the reason why the modeling is so dangerous right now is because we just had Christmas, right? We just had the thing where Christmas, where people went and traveled, and then there was a bit of an uptake because people chose to celebrate Christmas because the restrictions were unreasonable, and we asked people to be reasonable, blah, 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 blah. Should go down. Quebec instituted their curfew as a means of shock behavioural therapy. What in the fucking fuck does that mean? You don't have the right to shock the public. The sense of curfew was to mentally abuse the people of Quebec into compliance. That was the reasoning for their curfew. It's insane. That's absolutely insane. Is that what folks, we have to do in the modeling? And thankfully on the CBC, there was actually some pushback. Now, was the pushback reasonable? No. The only pushback was they got people on there to say, well, the curfew might disproportionately affect people who need to work, and that's marginalized communities like lots of women of color, and they might be harassed by the police. So thank God for the women of color, because that's the only reason we can be halfway reasonable these days, is because, if we murder everyone in Ontario, if the government mandates that everyone in Ontario must be murdered, that might be bad for black women, because black women might die if we kill everyone. Maybe we shouldn't do that. I mean, this is where we are now, but I know I have a bunch of Indigenous women who watch this. I have some, people of color, so Ontarians who are of color. It doesn't, please, I know you, the reason you watch me is you hate using your friggin', intersectional categories, and you believe you're individuals, and I do too. And I do too. But we're at Code Red. Okay, Code Red now, so if you can just throw away, a war of principles here, okay? If you can sort of write your elected official as a black woman of color who, and I'm going to ask you also identify as a lesbian for this one. As a black woman of color who's a lesbian, talk about how afraid you would be in curfew, that the police could arbitrarily detain you, make up a brother who died due to police brutality, say you're going to sue the government for racism. I know the civil liberties thing is the biggest thing, and I guess white people, you can try and write a reasonable letter to the officials outlining civil liberties concern. They'll toss it in the garbage. But we need as many people to say, as a Latinx, throw an X in your name. Woman X. Don't even do the WXMXN. Right? No vowels. Just only X's. Just show how diverse you are, okay? It's Code Red because, thankfully they're making the case that, okay, curfew, what? Coronavirus is just not there during the day. Coronavirus is only out at night between 8 and 5 a.m. The people who are already defying lockdowns because they're unreasonable would also defy the curfew because they're unreasonable. They made good points on the CBC. One of the doctors was actually saying, listen, the people who are going to congregate will still congregate. They'll just shift their time they congregate to the day. And then the most sensible thing, this is also why you don't close the small businesses, right? If you're shrinking hours so people can't go out at the night, a lot of people are going out at night and getting their stuff done, so they're not around as many other people. That was one of the original things we did during the beginning of the lockdowns, is we had earlier hours for seniors, right? And later, so they could go in a lower risk environment, right? You want to spread things out as much as possible. Instead, what you're doing is saying, okay, only Walmart and Costco will be open only from this hours, so everyone will just jam pack inside there. All right, and if you have everyone inside the room and you have a couple of people having it, then that's when the masks become ineffective. It's just so crazy. And this is why I hate the government. Because every step of the way, they have only looked at sort of short-sighted, what quick fixes can we do to show that they've never tried to stop the spread or find creative ways to mitigate cost of coronavirus. They've only shown ways that they could sort of flex their power to appease the media and the band of Canadians who want their civil liberties taken away because they're so afraid, right? They have the media scare everyone half to death, right? And then they sort of appease that fear by instituting these draconian measures that make people go, oh, good, they're taking away my civil liberties. That will protect me from the coronavirus. Again, like, I have enough doctors in the family, and they're not the coronavirus is fake, the vaccine is fake doctors. They're real, vaccinated, medical science is important, doctors. And they don't even think curfews are reasonable. So who does? Who are these experts? And who are these politicians? Like, the modeling is flawed. It's never been right? It's not, oh, if you see the modeling, you'll fall off your chair, folks. Like, if I actually said what the proper response would be to a curfew, I mean, this channel would get taken away. So, infer what you want off that. This is a breaking point. If they, without any evidence, institute curfews, that's it. Civil liberties done. The government has instituted the precedent in Canada that we can take away your civil liberties. We can lock you in your houses if we want to. If we want to, we can take away just if a computer model says that I should do it, then civil liberties be damned. Have at 'em. There's actually the one doctor. There was literally one line, also a throwaway line on the CBC about civil liberties concern. The rest of it was like, what about the black Latinx women of color who might be out after curfew, and that might get them in the cops and whatever. But I don't know how anyone's ever going to vote for Doug Ford again. And Doug Ford was supposed to have a few. If he had been a conservative premier, which he's not a conservative premier, right? He's out there partying with the Muslim Brotherhood. He's out at mosques that have 3 terrorism funding violations according to the Canadian government. Then he's taken away all of our civil liberties and governing like a hardcore leftist. I'm sorry, Rob Ford's ghost, because Rob Ford was cool. Rob Ford was awesome, right? Rob Ford just got drunk, smoked a bit of crack, and did nothing. And the city had $1 billion surplus. Took away a license plate tax, made sure blood claims weren't on drivers, and didn't create like 1,000 unnecessary diversity councils. That's not Doug Ford. Doug Ford is just a fat Justin Trudeau. #fat Trudeau.